Hi, I'm Adrian Branch, former pro athlete turned motivational speaker and certified life coach, and welcome to The Climb, a show where we celebrate the stories of resilient people sharing how they turned adversity into success. From the business sector to athletes and beyond, be inspired and learn what it takes to climb. Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Adrian Branch, and welcome to The Climb. A show, as we said, celebrates the resilience of people and their stories of overcoming potholes and obstacles. We want you to come away from this show saying, if they can do it, I can do it too. If they can overcome, I can overcome as well. Well, today our guest is a person that fits that bill. His name is Jack Easterby, and he is an amazing person. You're going to hear his story from the highest highs, accomplishing with integrity and consistency, and also with some of life's challenges. So Jack was one of the youngest executive vice presidents in the NFL. He's also been a character coach and chaplain. So without further ado, I want to introduce a man well respected by my entire family, Jack Easterby. Jack, how you doing?
What's up, AB? How you doing, brother, man? What a special honor to be with you and to celebrate what you're doing to make a difference, man. What a blessing.
Well, I want to be like you when I grow up, man. You have been so accomplished, and I'm so excited. You impress our entire family. So I want to get right into it because your story is so rich and so many experiences, and this is what this show is. We want these listeners out here to identify with some of these touch points. So jumping right into it, take us back. You're home, Columbia, South Carolina, mom and dad, Jimmy Easterby, Betsy, salt of the earth people. But you had a fascinating story starting at Newberry College. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so was really blessed to have a great family. I have one sister and grew up there in Columbia and just loved playing sports from a young age. My dad worked at our church as a sports ministry director. And so, as you know, when you are the son or the daughter of a sports ministry director, you end up in the church gym a lot. And so from camps to clinics to, things that we did in the community to leagues, our family was very active in the sports ministry scene in Columbia. And so naturally, when it was time to go to college, I really wanted to continue my journey in sports. I'd played sports at high school and enjoyed that. Financially, our family really needed to receive some assistance to go to school. And so Newberry recruited me, fortunately, to play both sports, both basketball and golf, which was a unique combination between those two sports to kind of two different demographics of people, two different style teams. One obviously has an individual component, one has a huge team component, but was fortunate to be okay at both. And so Newberry offered me a scholarship to come there and play both. And really cool experience because Newberry at the time was experiencing a desire across the board to kind of scale up their athletic department. And so they really invested in student athletes to give them better facilities, obviously better financial aid, and then better coaches to try to compete in the conference. And so was fortunate to get there, and we were at the dirt underneath the totem pole when we started. And then we, by the end, were competing for championships in both sports. So it was really fun journey. And being at a school, with that size, so Newberry was a little over 1,000 when I was there, gave me great opportunity for student athlete leadership, student leadership and ministry, different ministry organizations, and also just, leadership opportunities on campus, right? Where you can rally the students around different movements, different events, and try to serve the student body. So I got a great chance early on to have reps in leadership, whether that was things we were doing in the athletic department or things we were doing campus wide. And I feel like that really began to formulate my desire to make a difference through sports. And so Newberry, had a great, awesome impact on me and our beginning. And then the best thing to come out of Newberry is met my wife.
Okay.
Yeah, so she was there, homecoming queen in the Married Up Club there.
Okay. I told you I want to be you when I grow up. I told you. Oh, I never knew that. I never knew you two connected from college.
Yes. So she was with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes there. She was actually an officer with FCA.
That's how you were Fellowship of the Christian Athlete of the Year on campus, huh? That was the motivation.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Yep. Spent a lot more time there when she was leading. But yeah, really cool experience. And Newberry was a great opportunity for me to really get to know not only the value of sports and the impact of the college level, but also the way that sports can lead you into a career. I was a sports management major there. So I got a chance to do some internships and other things that led me into what I would ultimately do from a career perspective.
I'd love to ask you this because you just mentioned, and I know you wouldn't say it, but I have some notes written down, Athlete of the Year, Student Athlete of the Year in the SAC back in 2005, Men's Golf Character Award. So you were really achieving. My question is, how were you able to keep your compass pointed north when at times, this is a whole talk by itself, college is a time where people are really trying to identify with identity. They want to find their tribe. They want to find where they belong. How were you able to do that consistently? And how were you able to stay passionate about doing what's right because it's right and doing it right?
Well, at Newberry, I was really fortunate because a lot of the people that were surrounding us at Newberry, the other athletes that were on other teams, and then those that were with us in our FCA group, and I would say the student athlete success group, they were all really doing things for the first time, right? And so there was a lot of people that were, whether it was winning the conference for the first time, or obviously the expectations of the athletic department were increasing, and so we had a whole group that were unified. We did Bible studies together. We obviously hung out together. We trained together, and that was multiple sports. And
so it was positive peer pressure.
Fortunate.
It was a positive peer pressure.
Okay. It was a lot about the company we kept, right? And so honestly, I fell into some of that. Tamir Zimmerman and several other athletes that were there that played different sports, where we would talk about goal setting and, hanging out on the weekends and different things that we would do for our own sports. And then obviously playing two sports, I had two support systems. So year round, I was deviating in and out of those two support systems and doing what we had to do to train and compete for those sports. So, to be transparent with you, AB, I didn't come up with that. Like, that was really something that, my compass was given to me by two really caring and loving coaches, and then also a community of people that wanted to be successful. And so I fell into that. And then as I matured and my faith became really the center point of my entire life for me personally, that became my North Star and my decision maker. It's everything that we were doing was to try to honor the Lord, in addition to all those people around us that were really good humans.
I found this is what I always appreciated about you. I thought you always talk about IQ and EQ, and I thought it was balanced because I always saw you having wisdom beyond your years, but also you lived as if the boat was burned. So if it's going to be, it's up to me. Tell us about that combination with IQ and EQ and the urgency of wisdom and working hard to try to get what you want legally and morally.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think, I was really fortunate. My parents gave me everything from a standpoint of love and truth and a biblical upbringing. But there was, let's say, humble beginnings for the Easterby family, meaning that we didn't have a lot of extra. And so I knew, when I went to school, really, it was a missional, trip, right? It was a, hey, you're going now to grow and achieve, and you need to get after it, because there's really not a whole lot to come back to from a standpoint of, there was no family business or any sort of head start there. I needed to go get after it. And so I felt like, when I got to college, the intellectual curiosity of understanding, like, hey, I got to learn and grow because I got to kind of make this work, was always at the center point of my mind. It was a healthy challenge for my parents. I think when you intersect love and truth, where you're talking about EQ and IQ, I think when you intersect love and truth and you tell people the truth, but you love them while you do it, that expedites growth. And I would say my parents did a great job expediting my growth by giving me love and truth until I got to college. And then was fortunate when I got to Newberry that several coaches and again, several of my athlete constituents also did that. Hey, let's love each other, but let's tell each other the truth. And I think that grows both IQ and EQ. You can learn things, but if your emotions aren't strong enough and you aren't loved well enough, sometimes it's hard to apply them, right? And so I think that for me and for my experience, both in college and then right out of college, I think love and truth was a huge part of the reason I felt comfortable going places other people in my family hadn't been yet. Right?
Wow. Okay.
Is that I felt loved. Right? I felt like I had been loved, and I felt like I had been told the truth, both good and bad. Some I didn't want to hear, and some I did want to hear. I remember one of my early days as a basketball player. You know, when you realize your talent isn't going to be as good, and you're playing with people that are better than you now.
Yeah.
So I remember my coach when I crossed half one time in practice. He said, "Hey, the best thing you can do when you get the ball across half is get it to somebody else." So I knew that. You know, my Bible study leader at that point was our basketball coach. And so I knew he loved me and he was telling me the truth. Get the ball to somebody else who could do something.
Okay. I didn't see that one coming, Jack. I didn't see that one coming. Wow.
So anyway, I say that to say when you have people around you that care for you and also tell you the truth, whether it's hard truth or just things that you need to hear about a circumstance, your IQ and your EQ grow, right? Your ability to make the right decision intellectually, but also emotionally process the right emotions in the moment, they both grow. And so I was fortunate, both again, growing up and then in college, I think to have both of those seeds planted firmly in my heart, in addition to my faith that made, I think, growth possible at a fast rate.
Let me ask you this. So then you are able to go, how were you able to transition from Newberry right there to South Carolina, SEC school, Power 5 school, and you were a team chaplain for Dave Odom, who we have tremendous respect for the listeners out there. He is one of the most foremost coaches. He's a gentleman, a character guy. Dawn Staley, who just won the national championship. You can smile on that, Jack Easterby. Your school just won the national championship. And you were entrusted with that. How were you able to land on your feet and endear yourself to these leaders at South Carolina?
Yeah, so between between my junior and senior year in college, one of the organizations that I had gotten close with was Young Life, which is a ministry that does great work and specifically a parachurch ministry that I think really takes careful attention on evangelism of youth, both in high school and college. And so one of the Young Life leaders I had gotten close with had gotten a job with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And so he invited me to come down there and do an extended internship with him. And he served as a mentor to me. And so when I got done with school, I'd done an internship with Jacksonville and then had kind of thought through, okay, what's the right next move for our family? My grandmother had passed away. My grandfather was living by himself. And so I went back, lived with my granddad, and I got a job at the University of South Carolina in the academic department. And basically I was tutoring at nights student athletes. I had always taken my academics seriously and thought that it was the right thing to do when I was in college. But they offered opportunities at South Carolina through relationships I had just being from Columbia for me to come in at night and help tutor the student athletes. Well, naturally there was a fit with the basketball team because I had just played. Mm-hmm. And so living with my granddad, tutoring student athletes at night. And after we got some reps with the basketball team, Coach Odom called me, and to his credit, he said, hey, obviously our group, our basketball team is going to be traveling throughout the year. We need a tutor that will travel with us. And then we'll also, help our guys as we start getting displaced from classes and different things. And so we went to the Great Alaska Shootout. Oh,
I've been there before. Yeah. Anchorage, Alaska.
I don't know if you remember or if I've told you this story, but so we go to the Great Alaska Shootout, and I'm there as a tutor, as an academic tutor. And Coach Odom comes and says, hey, it's Thanksgiving. We want somebody to do a devotion. We know your faith is really important to you.
Okay.
Would you be willing to give us a little nugget, a little devotion, a little 10-minute thing just to say thank you? Because it's Thanksgiving and we're away from our families and all that. And so I got a chance to give a devotion. It just so happened that was the beginning of the tournament. And so Coach Odom said, hey, on Friday, he said, the day after Thanksgiving, he said, hey, that went well yesterday. Will you do that again for us tomorrow?
Whoa.
And I said, okay, sure. I got to go to the bullpen and find something to talk about. But let me do it again. So anyway,
Okay.
so then subsequently, I began to do a devotion for every game before that. And then we would have about 20 to 25 of them I would do. And then the other 15 we would invite guests to do. And we created a program to support the student athletes on the basketball team that year that kind of grew out of that. And then coach said, hey, I'll let you run my camps in the summer. I'm going to build a job description. And then he essentially made a job for me out of the men's basketball office at the University of South Carolina in 2005. So it was a really, really cool opportunity that was built out of just serving student athletes in the academic center that evolved into a career and a job that was really fun. As you know, college basketball is so fun, and traveling and competing and watching people grow. And then that year we actually won the NIT.
Yeah, back to back, 2 years in a row, I want to say.
Yeah. So that was really fun. So yeah, it was a really cool story, just out of serving those guys in the academic center.
You said a lot. And again, this is what this show is about. Can do. The horse no one bet on already. You said, hey, I've got to grind because mom and dad love me. They're being honest. It's just like my coach, like, look, you're playing well, but swing the basketball so you pass somebody. But it's interesting where you were aware of how you were showing up and you needed to grind. Where I'm going with this, Jack, is it's fascinating where preparation met opportunity, where you started out one as a counselor, as a tutor, but then the opportunity, you were prepared when Coach Odom said, can you encourage our guys? So I want to say this, tell the listeners about relationships and preparation, because I know you're a big preparation guy.
Yeah, I think what is so crazy about all of specifically sports, but really all of life, is that one of the greatest constants is change, right? Like change is just, it's happening, right? It's things are evolving, things are always moving. And so in order for you to be able to move with change or be prepared when an opportunity comes your way because of change, you have to naturally be so active every day in reading, studying, praying, knowing your surroundings, knowing the people that you're working with, or potentially having a great relationship subset of people that you're interacting with, because frankly, you can't control the change and the way things change, but you can control how you respond to change. And specifically in that situation, obviously athlete support has changed dramatically over the last really 2 decades, right? I mean, it used to be, hey, go to study hall, get your work done, and we'll see you at practice. And then obviously student athlete services began to evolve and there began to be more needs. And to your point, I was very fortunate because I knew as an athlete that, we all need people to come beside us and walk the road with us and do life with us to help us, to encourage us.
So relationships.
So I was fortunate to have both a passion for relationships and what it meant to be a good teammate, but I was also there and aware of how these businesses were changing, and that the student athlete platforms and student athlete demands were going to go up and up. And so I think the relationships we created at the University of South Carolina were really unique because they were birthed out of a movement, frankly, that was coming from a huge boom in college sports. And yet for that to be in my hometown, obviously I was very fortunate as well because I knew a lot of those people and had runway with a lot of the people that were supporting the university in different ways. And so, relationships, are so important to all of us. What you give, what you get, how you feel about yourself, how you make other people feel. Relationships are such a currency. They're such a currency. And I think we all are probably a product of the relationships we've had to this point. And we will all probably be a product of the relationships that we continue to invest in over time. So Yeah, I mean, there's, like you said, there's a lot there. Those first early years were really, for me, all about relationships, and people I learned from, like Coach Odom. I mean, listen, I didn't know which suit to wear to which occasion, right? I didn't know anything about dealing with the media.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I tell this story a lot. Like Coach Odom, when he retired, he realized that the game was changing, and
And tell him who
it wasn't,
Coach Odom is real quick. He was Tim Duncan's coach. He was a celebrated, respected. Give a little backdrop on that.
Yeah, so Dave Odom is one of the most, in my opinion, one of the most probably successful multi-tiered coaches in college basketball history. He started out as a high school coach, Goldsboro High, several different opportunities in the North Carolina, middle North Carolina area. Really during desegregation. And frankly, he advocated for racial equality. He advocated for
yeah,
for all people.
Yes.
Just an amazing heart, right? And that began to give him opportunities to coach different places. Had a brief stint at East Carolina, and then had a huge relationship with Ralph Sampson at Virginia, right? So goes to Virginia, becomes an assistant coach for Terry Holland. And then
We played against him. That was my era. That was my era. I remember Coach Odom. Absolutely.
That's right. So then obviously goes to Wake and has so many, Rodney Rogers, Tim Duncan has some great recruits there, takes them into the NCAA tournament. Wake didn't have a huge tradition at that time, but he developed an expectation for them to be good. And a lot of those glory days of the ACC, right, where you had basically, 8 to 10 teams every year that could compete to get to the Sweet 16 or beyond. So really cool. His success in South Carolina really stole him away from Wake Forest because he had become, the expectations had gotten so high at Wake that, he had created sometimes his own demise in some ways.
Oh, the expectation was so high. Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, so South Carolina steals him away. And really quickly created a successful program at South Carolina, 2 NIT championships, NCAA berth right off the bat, which was really a blessing. But when his career came to an end, and I think this is really interesting, he talked a lot about the relationships that had meant a lot to him. And he told a story in his retirement speech, is really cool, about the gentleman from Arkansas that was the door holder for the locker room.
Oh,
and
okay.
How important it was for him when he used to go play at Arkansas, and South Carolina and Arkansas entered the SEC at the same time. So they were partners in the schedule. So they were often opponents. And he told the story about how in his media press conference of his retirement that, there are all these people that go into making a game possible, right? From the scorekeeper to the recruiters to the players to even people who are helping keep
behind the scenes. Yes.
Or, keeping the locker room open and escorting him from the bus to the locker room. So anyway, I was able to learn from him pretty much everything that goes into a successful sports organization. I saw him handle, from media scrutiny to recruiting to communication with AAU coaches to communication with his own staff to his family to raising 2 great kids who would go on to be coaches. I saw a lot of that, which I had no precedent in my own family for that type of success, integrity, and platform. Coach and I went running every day. I would go over and meet at his house early in the morning, and he taught me anything from what suit to wear to how to tie different ties to, where to go in the country for certain things and understand
tone, tact, and timing as well.
Yeah. Yes. And so anyway, I give him a lot of credit in those early years because I just come back to the man he was and how he led, and just learned a lot from him.
Let me ask you this. Relationship was so big that now the NFL is calling. And I don't want to go over that so fast. The NFL. So is this a truism? If you're faithful with little, you'll be faithful with much. You were faithful with those relationships at Newberry and now South Carolina, that the NFL is calling, and it's the Kansas City Chiefs. So all of a sudden it's the NFL, but then real life happens and you were in the thrust of having to navigate a heartbreaking experience. Tell us about Kansas City real quick.
Yeah, so we were really fortunate at the end when Coach Odom was in his last year or so. He actually mentioned, he said, "Why don't we do a Bible study for all athletes on campus?" And so
Wow. Wow.
we
Wow.
started a Bible study where we would have all of the athletes come to the football stadium and do a Bible study once a week. And we had several people contribute, different athletic administrators and coaches and people, and just kind of a rallying point for the student athletes during the week. And one of the athletes that came to that was a young man named Ryan Suckup. And Ryan was our kicker, originally from North Carolina. And he was drafted Mr. Irrelevant by the Kansas City Chiefs. And naturally, when he went to Kansas City, he continued his impact and his ministry there through local FCA and other people. But he said, "Hey, Jack, would you come out and speak to our team and challenge our team?" And so he introduced me to the general manager there, Scott Pioli.
Okay.
And they had not yet established their chaplaincy character development program. And so they allowed me to kind of pilot some growth opportunities for them and to create some onboarding systems for them and to help, athletes and people there as they relocated, but also just, help them with Saturday night chapels and speaking to the young players and things like that. And so when we started that process, really, I was very naive to the level of interaction and the level of just access that Scott and Ryan would give me over the course of the next 2 years. And man, it was so impactful. I learned so much. There's so many of our friends still to this day that we made through Kansas City and through tough experiences we went through there, but also some really good experiences, some life change, some people that really committed themselves to doing what was right. And there were a lot of great people hired in that organization that really set the foundation for who their organization is now and how awesome they are now.
Well, also, you talked about at the time, I want to say you were commuting. So Holly and the kids were back in South Carolina and you were commuting. How was that grind? How were you able to pull that off and still be in two places at one time?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I did that well all the time. I know that a lot of early morning, late night flights, a lot of, I felt like at some points I was welcoming the flight attendants on the plane, and they knew who I was because it was the same flights every week. But yeah, no, it was, I was really fortunate to have family support, but also to have the support, at that time of the Chiefs organization to allow us to come in and serve them in that way. And like you mentioned, I mean, we went through some tough stuff there. Unfortunately, we had a situation where, a young man made a bad mistake. And I think that although, we all wish that he was still with us and we wish that didn't happen, I do think a lot of great things came out of it. I think that the organization handled it really, really well. I think the support staff was there for the players, and I thought the players rallied around each other and served each other, loved each other well. I loved his family well. And so there were a lot of things that out of a, quote, bad, challenging event, in some ways life-changing event, I do think there was a catalyst for good. There were things that came out that were good lessons and precedents within the NFL for services for players and things that began to activate even more growth across the board within, services that are offered to players to continue to help them grow as people while their careers are unfolding.
Yeah, now you talk about this. So where you're going through a heartbreaking loss of a player in that you're a young guy and you're the character coach and they are responding to you. How were you able to navigate compassion and what were you becoming and learning about yourself in trauma?
Yeah, at the time, I'm not really sure, maybe if I'm honest with you, if I knew everything that would happen as a result of that, right? Like you're really become more of a listener than anything, right? We were blessed to bring in some really cool counseling services that I think helped some of the players and the families that had great relationships with Javon. But we also, I think, were able to listen to the hearts of how connected that team was, even though maybe the success on the field wasn't quite what everybody wanted. team and the connection of a team is still special. There's a lot of time that's lost together, a lot of minutes on a practice field, hours, days, months, where people are committing to each other, giving their all for each other. And so I think I just learned the value of listening. You can't change, right? There's a lot of things you can't change, right? There's a lot of things you can't alter. There's no one-liner. There's no quick fix. There's no, one little box you can check to make it feel better, to make it go away. But you can listen and try to lean in and hear the hearts of the people that may be hurting or may be thriving, depending on the situation. So I think I really learned the value of listening. And then it wasn't until later, I think, and when we got to New England, when I myself really understood, hey, wow, this was a lot that we went through, and some of those lessons that we went through and how they were going to inform my career, but also inform how I could help other people.
It's interesting. You're in demand now. So everything you're touching has been able to bear fruit. Newberry College, South Carolina, Kansas City, and some of the positive reforms. And then, lo and behold, the best of the best comes calling. Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, 3 Super Bowls in 5 years, 4 ACC championships. My goodness, how did that happen?
Well, I was very fortunate that my relationship with Kansas City, persisted through the change there. Andy was hired and was able to have a great rapport with him, and I had really thought I would stay on with Kansas City because I knew Andy's solid character approach and his desire for his players to have what they needed. And then that offseason, I got a call from Bill, and Bill and Andy are good friends, and he allowed me to go visit with Bill, and went and met with Bill, and Bill had a vision for a role that would support him and the staff in onboarding players, equipping players, and inspiring players to impact them in a way that would help them not only with what they were doing on the field, but off, and also to connect the team more. They had been through a tough situation with one of their teammates as well. And so in some ways, while I wasn't there for that, I was picking up with a group of people that had been through a lot. And every team goes through a lot every year, right? But the idea is, their team had been through some challenges that I think were unique. And so Bill had a vision for the role for me to come into the Patriots and serve their group. And so we moved to Foxborough, Massachusetts.
A little cold.
And wow, what a blessing that was. Yeah, we had to go get some jackets. That weather forecast was a little bit different than South Carolina, but man, we were so fortunate by just the people we met there, just life-changing relationships. Matthew Slater and Nate Solder and Devin McCourty, and you mentioned Tom, and so many other people that we met when we got there who were just amazing humans. I mean, just absolutely awesome humans. And you know this because of your success in professional sports agent. You really don't achieve that type of, sustainable success without having a lot of high character people who know what to do and can do it consistently, right? A lot of people know what to do and they can't do it. A lot of people can do it, but they can't do it consistently, right? And if you have people who know what to do and can do it consistently, it just creates a lot of trust and a lot of habits that can be used under pressure. And in that case, there was just an awesome nucleus of humans that were in that building. And that's a tribute to ownership and Coach Belichick to get them all there. And we were blessed to really help serve that group as a lot of awesome things unfolded.
Well, as I'm watching the process again, so your reputation is growing. I wrote down some notes. The demand is growing, and step by step, you're achieving. So then the Houston Texans come, and it's a rapid rise. But is this a true saying every action has an equal and opposite reaction? So as you're being celebrated, there's also an undercurrent that's saying, hey, how is this guy as a chaplain eventually going to become a general manager and executive vice president, director of football operations, one of the youngest? Tell us about that experience and that rapid rise.
Yeah, well, we had a great stretch in when we were in New England, and we really enjoyed every minute of it. And I would say, from a standpoint of where we were living there in Foxborough and that region, how great that was, the success we had, how that region supports that team. We enjoyed every minute of it. My wife and I felt it was time to move forward to a different opportunity, a different challenge. And so I was familiar with the Texans organization. Obviously, Bob McNair was a huge Gamecock, and so I
Oh,
was
okay.
very familiar with his overlap with our athletic director, Eric Hyman, when I was at South Carolina. And so knew good things about their organization and knew they were good people. And so went down to Houston, and the things that we all aspire to do when we get to a place. Sometimes we get new information once we get to that place. I definitely, at each place I was fortunate to be at, I was, once you get kind of under the hood, if you will, there's new information that comes, right? And so when we got to Houston, we loved living in Houston. Houston was a great situation for us as a family. Our girls loved school there. It was a really good school. They went to First Baptist Academy, which was a great school. And so when we got there, obviously, a lot changed, and there was a lot of transition and a lot of things that went on. But we were so thankful for that, and so thankful for the time there, the lessons there, the opportunity to serve there, and a lot of things that I think we learned there. And I think there is going to be challenges no matter what you're doing when you try to grow and evolve an organization. Sometimes those challenges are things that are easily changeable. Sometimes those things are very difficult to get changed. And so again, we're so thankful for that. And really, I think what I learned more than anything was a lot of things that I know I can do better as a leader. When I look in the mirror, coming out of that experience, I had a long list of those so that I can reflect and be like, hey, these are the things that, Jack, you need to do, continue to grow in, so that you can serve whatever group you lead next. You can serve them better.
Let's double down for a second, Jack. As much as you can say, give us a for instance. And I appreciate you saying, hey, I need to learn some things. I need to step my game up on some things. And when you and I talk, I always ask the question, do you like what you're becoming? Do you like what you're unbecoming? So at the time, say that the time of your heartbreak, what was your mindset? Take us through for the listener out there that may have had their heart broken, that may have had something accused on them, whether it was right or wrong. What was your self-talk like? What were you inside your four walls of your mind when nobody was around?
Yeah, I think I really realized how much of the world and so much of things that we are a part of every day that are outside of our control, I would say. That was something that I really realized. Obviously, there's always margin of things, like I said, that you can do better. And there are certain things that you say, hey, you know what? I fouled that pitch off. But there's a lot of things that you can't control. And I think what I thought about often when I was by myself, and still think about often, is how am I doing with the things that I can control? Because if the things we can't control take up a lot of our mind space, then obviously those things are going to result in all types of different frustrations for us, right? Because they're not going to turn out the way we want, or there's going to get negative feedback, or there's going to be a lot of ups and downs with those subject lines. But if you really try to think about what do you control, then you can, get yourself back center and be able to do what honors God and honors your family and hopefully honors the group that you're with. So I think that's the one thought I would say I thought a lot about is what can I control, and what do I need to make sure that I do today to align with what I control. And again, like I say, I think there's certain things, certain parts of that list that you execute real well because you're focusing on that and you feel good about it. And then there's other parts that, man, I control this, but I didn't do a great job. And so you learn and you grow and you say, all right, next time when I'm in control of blank, blank, I'm going to do, said activity better. And so I think, though, it's really, 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 I mean, with the days of obviously social media and all the different things that go on with the media, I think that you can very easily gravitate a lot of your mental energy towards things you don't control.
Wow.
And I think that having the mind discipline to say, here's what I control, and is it good? Is it excellent?
Yeah.
Is it praiseworthy? And if you do the things you can control in that manner, then usually it's going to work out.
Well, now you part ways and then you're still in demand. So 2022, you're an independent, basically a free agent, and now you sit on the board of a few companies, and then you started your own, basically, investment group. Who is Jack Easterby today, and what are you doing today because you're still in demand?
Yeah, so I really felt like one of the tasks that God had given me my last year in Houston was my parents had been both diagnosed Alzheimer's. And so I felt like it was something that I needed to do to get back to the East Coast and try to help care for them as best we could. I think I mentioned earlier, I got an awesome sister who's in Columbia. She's an accountant and just an awesome human. And so she had really held the fort down while we were in Massachusetts and then when we were in Houston. And so felt like I needed to get back to the East Coast. So we moved to Charlotte, and I was able to jump back and forth from Columbia while getting my parents the care they needed. I think as that has unfolded, I've felt and thought a lot about multi-generational impact, right? Things my family did for me, things I'm trying to do for my girls. And then also the world around us, and being close to family and friends on the East Coast has really been good. And so we've been here. We've started a small private equity fund that we've been managing for a year and some change, and then have still been working in the sports scene with a lot of friends and relationships we had over the last year. And that's been really good. And really excited about different opportunities to learn and to impact people. And like I said, this is a little bit more in the footprint of where we grew up, and obviously having tons of relationships in this region really helps. And yeah, things are going really well heading into the holidays here, and excited about some good time with family as we wrap up 24.
You know, it's interesting. I wrote down a couple of quotes that you had. Explain this one to me. You talk about the cornerstone of good leadership is creating emotional stability. What's that mean?
Well, I think, every day has its own events. And I think that those events naturally prompt our emotions in different ways, right? Sometimes things happen that are unexpected. Sometimes things happen that are expected. And in my opinion, whatever group you're leading or whatever group you're trying to lead, there's going to be emotional fracture that goes on in that group based on unexpected events and expected events. And so as a leader, your goal is to provide emotional stability for the group. You can't obviously be involved in every single person's life personally, but you as the leader need to be stable emotionally, understanding that in the fractures that go on a daily basis, people are going to be looking to you for how to respond, how to react. And so what I've kind of come to and concluded after some successes and some failures has been your ability to say, hey, listen, I want to show up the same way every day, have the same energy every day, have the same authenticity and the same empathy for others every day. If you do that, then naturally you'll provide stability for when those fractures happen. People can get through them, and you can work through them and massage the different challenges together to hopefully build unity amongst the group. But if you're emotionally too fractured, then you yourself can't lead and provide that North Star that the people around you need. And so I think, again, we live in a really emotionally, unstable world, right? Things swing. The pendulum is wide from obviously the different things that are going on in our country to just families and challenges that we all have. And if you can be water dripping on a rock for others in the way that you carry yourself, it may give them some encouragement and some hope that they can get through whatever they see is the big rock in the way.
Let me give you another one. You said this, we're all rough drafts of the people we're becoming. What's that mean?
Yeah, I tell you, I've written a lot of rough drafts. I think I probably turned in some final drafts that could have been rough drafts.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think we all grow every day. You know, our circumstances, the situations that we're in, we all grow every day. None of us are who we were, and none of us are who we're going to be. And I think that what I've begun to notice over the years has been there's so many things that are edited, out of our lives, or sometimes need to be removed out of our lives to enable us to grow and to become something that we didn't maybe see we could be with that in our lives. And so whether that's, again, just habits or relationships or disciplines, all of us are construction projects. So many times I feel like, I sit in my office in the mornings and I'll think I need to go get yellow tape and just put it all over my desk, because I feel like, you get a lot of feedback from your mistakes. When you
wow.
get something right, you don't always get the same feedback, but we all get a lot of feedback from our mistakes. And so we are all construction projects. We're all trying to get better and improve. And the more you can edit and audit from the feedback you get, the quicker you're going to grow.
I hear brokenness. I hear something that's realistic. When I hear speakers, you and I are privileged to be around speakers and be speakers. I always ask the question, is that sincere? Is that real? And I hear the brokenness from Jack Easterby. That's a good thing. I'm going to ask one more question before we start to wrap this up. Life is one of my favorite ones that you say, life is measured by time, but experienced in moments, if I said that right. Tell us about that one.
Yeah. Well, I would say outside of the birth of your kids, right? Like if I said, hey, AB, tell me when you guys won a championship with the Lakers, what time was it on the clock, right? You probably wouldn't be able to tell me exactly what it was. Probably 10 p.m. or
back then it's hammer time. It's hammer time in the 80s.
Yeah, it was party time as well.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that if we all look back on our lives, we don't necessarily know what the clock said, but we remember how we felt, right? We remember who was in the room. And my thought has been that I think a lot of times we measure our days, whether it's our calendar, our phones, or whatever, we measure our days in time, minutes, hours, and all that. But we remember our life in moments. Like I remember the first time you talked to our team at the University of South Carolina. I remember that moment. I remember the cafeteria we were in. I remember exactly where I sat, right?
Wow.
I remember where I was when, Malcolm Butler intercepted the ball to beat the Seattle Seahawks at the last play of the Super Bowl in Arizona. So I think those things, in my opinion, inform a lot of our emotions, positive and negative, about how we remember our lives. And so if we look forward, it's always that time matrix. But if we look backwards, man, it's usually the moments that we have in our lives and the people that were a huge part of those moments. So I've always said, like, hey, man, windshield, great. Let's look at time, how we're going to use our time. But, man, when you look back, gosh, it's all about moments and how time stood still because you had an amazing moment with a friend, or amazing moment with your teammates, or amazing moment with a business that was really successful, or had a big, event that happened. So yeah, life is so much measured in time, but it is remembered in moments.
Wow. Well, Jack, I'm going to put an exclamation point on that one there. This has been a moment for us and the listeners. And I want you to give a nugget to the listeners. One more parting shot for Jack Easterby. How can you encourage someone to keep climbing? For that listener out there, what would you say after all these experiences, the Bill Belichick's, the Super Bowls, the heartbreak, the accusations you've been through? How could you encourage someone to keep climbing?
Yeah, I think a lot of our life we view through the lens of where we are versus where we want to be. And I think a lot of times when you evaluate your life that way, you only receive the negative feedback, right? Like, here I am today, and here's where I want to be in 5 years. And I think that naturally leads to you receiving the negative, although you're thinking about trying to grow. So I think the question becomes, how can we each day put in a full day to be the best version of who God made us to be? And what I would challenge us all to do, and I would challenge any listener who's trying to evolve, grow, become, better, is don't just view life through where you want to be and what's in the way of where you want to be. Don't view life through, man, I want to be such and such, but I can't do that until this, or I want to be this, but I can't do that because of that. Because that's naturally going to leave you with a negative sentiment in your mind, right? You're naturally only taking away the thing that's in between you and perceived greatness. Really just establish what a full day looks like. Establish what a full week looks like, what's your absolute best, what puts the nail all the way to the floor for you doing your absolute best on what you've been given that day, that week, that month. And if you do your absolute best, then you'll be shocked what could happen as you string that together. But I have found that there is just masses of people right now that are sitting in chairs or sitting in offices, viewing their life from where they are to where they want to be with whatever obstacle in between the two. And that's what they think about 90% of the time. And so my thought would be, don't view it that way. Don't think about, hey, I'm here, but I can't get to there because I don't have said, accelerator, or I don't have said trampoline to jump on to see higher. Don't do that. Put in a full day. Put in a full week. Put in a full month.
Wow.
Put in all of your relationships, all you got. Put in it to people around you. Just put the nail flush to the board. Give it all you got. Think, read, pray, study, impact, and then watch what can happen. And I think you'll be shocked where it'll really end up. Versus
Beautiful.
Only seeing it from where you are to where you want to be and what might be in the way of that.
Beautiful. Wow. Jack, I'm full. It's like a food buzz. You've given us so many nuggets. Delicious conversation. I want to thank the listeners out there. I told you Jack Easterby has been just an amazing man. Tell us where the listeners can find you. Where can they find you if they want to follow up on what you're doing?
Well, our family's blessed to have a foundation, the Greatest Champion Foundation. We founded in 2011 to begin to impact character coaching around the country, to build curriculums, to help support coaches who want to do it the right way. So we've got a great website there. And then we're in Charlotte, North Carolina, and blessed to be a part of the community of faith here, but also the business community, the sports business community. Have been blessed to see a lot of different people in this region. And again, we're just so thankful for relationships with people like yourself and others who are really getting up every morning saying that they want to make a difference, try to raise other people's lives and raise other people's boats higher by interacting with others the right way. So thank you for your friendship and your love all these years and support, man. It's really a blessing.
Man, Jack, thanks for coming on. We salute you. Outstanding. I sure appreciate that. Folks, that's Jack Easterby, and just a wonderful man. And you just heard it. A lot of people talk, but this guy has something to say. And it's been so rich, and just an ordinary person who takes his walk and humanity seriously. Wow. For my climbers out there, thanks for joining us today. We're going to have some upcoming shows, people that are just like Jack Easterby, that's just got a can-do spirit, and we want you to connect with that. If you enjoyed today, we want you to look at adrianbranchspeaks.com. Join us on social media at Adrian Branch Speaks, and also download The Climb, the name of the show, The Climb, where podcasts are available. It's been a lot of fun. We sure appreciate you guys today and your time. And for my climbers, remember this: be encouraged and keep climbing. Thanks, everybody.